is all about no lockdown on learning, unlocking the true purpose and potential of virtual learning environment. And for that, we have eminent speakers with us. We are joined by Professor Dr. Navin Sheikh, Vice Chancellor, Gujarat Technological University. Welcome, Dr. Sheikh. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are joined by special guest Rajita Kulkarni, President, Sri Sri University. Welcome, Rajita ji. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are joined by Dr. K.P. Isaac, Director General, XIME Group of Institutions. We welcome Dr. Isaac. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are also joined by Dr. Anubha Singh, Vice Chancellor, Alliance University. Welcome, Dr. Anubha. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are also joined by Dr. V.K. Rattan, Vice Chancellor, GNA University. Welcome, Dr. Rattan. Thank you so much for joining us. Just to give you in perspective what this event is all about. This event is all about bringing communities together from the education fraternity, be it higher education, be it school education, be it skill education, be it the EdTech solution providers, be it EdTech partners, so that we all can discuss on various aspects of quality education, keeping in mind the realities of new world order, and then out of those discussion, we can find a way out to move forward in the right direction. And for that, in the second day of this APAC Global Education and Skill Conclave, which is the second edition, we are joined by these eminent speakers, and this topic of this panel discussion is no lockdown on learning, unlocking the true purpose and potential of virtual learning environment. Let's have a perspective from Professor Dr. Navin Sheikh. Dr. Navin, your thought on this? No lockdown on learning, though we all have stayed during in lockdown in last 1.5 years for many months, but there has been no lockdown on learning. Your thoughts on that? And since Dr.
Namaskar.
Singh is with us from Gujarat Technological University, let me take this opportunity to also mention all of you that Government of Gujarat and Government of Telangana are the host partners of this prestigious conclave. So over to you, Dr. Singh.
Yeah. Namaskar. Good afternoon to all the participants and all my uh, esteemed panelists. So, all of a sudden, there is a lockdown. No situation is predicted by anyone, and there is a complete lockdown in India. And we are means my university is the largest university in the state of Gujarat, affiliating about 500 colleges, and there are 17,000 teachers. We have just surveyed initially that how many they are familiar with the online teaching. Only 3% teachers at that time in the month of March and April, they given that only 3% teachers they are aware of this all online tools and other thing. 97% teachers they have not used these all such tools. We have given them all available tools, information, their uh, training online, and they have started to teach online. And really, we have knocked down the lockdown at GTU. Even in the rural area, means some students they are facing some problems and other thing. So we have requested our teachers to upload their video lectures. About 12,000 video lectures uploaded by our teachers from the different colleges, and the students at any time they go through their lectures. Even the innovations and other thing, that type of the activity, that is not affected. We have by all such tools, by mentoring and other thing, and students they have number of such innovative products or a process they have developed also. At the university level also, um, when there is a lot of sanitizer in the market all of a sudden, and so many adulterated and they are in the market, uh, our professor they have evaluated the method of that evaluating the sanitizer purity, and free of charge we are testing that provided that facility. uh, Even there was a lot of demand for the RT-PCR test, and results are not available in time. The laboratory is given them after 3 days. So our biotechnology lab having RT-PCR, we have started with the permission of ICMR. Our is the first university in the state of Gujarat having the ICMR permission at the university, and we have started that test also. And about more than 5,000 tests we have performed at our university, and we are giving the result within 4 hours. So continuously, day and night, we have given that facility. So as far as the teaching learning, even the practical parts, so many animated and other such modules developed by our teachers, and even a practicals training, because it is very difficult for a skill development. But even though we have tried that part also, with the even with the help of the NTPL IIT by IIT Bombay, so that part is also, so it is not at all affected. And even today, then government has opened for the 50% students. So even only 30% students are reporting. So the teaching is going on in a blended mode. So teaching is not affected at all. And in real sense, we have knocked down the lockdown at GTU Gujarat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Interesting perspective by Dr. Seth. Let's have a perspective from Rajita Kulkarni, President of Swiss University. Ma'am, your thoughts on this? No lockdown or learning.
Yes, Souvik ji, thank you for having me in this conference again, and great to be with all the esteemed panelists. I think we have spoken a lot about this, about how each of our institutions responded to really moving learning online to make sure that there was no loss of learning for our students. It was the same in Shishu University. In fact, in Shishu University, we had a shutdown 10 days before the national lockdown was announced last year. And within 4 days, we were able to send back all our students, because ours is a campus university. We were able to send back all our students home safely and start classes online. There was a lot of, like Dr. Seth also said, there was a lot of gap in capability. So I want to talk about 5 C's that we worked on, and I think will continue to be important for us as we move in a blended mode even after our institutions open, because all students are not coming back to campus. So the number one thing is capability from the teacher's side as well as the student side. To teach online and to learn online requires completely different skills than what is needed in a physical classroom. We had to upgrade the skills of our teachers and also do a lot of orientations for our students to enable them to improve their online learning. In fact, we did sessions even for parents, because everybody was at home, and parents' interface had also increased a lot. We would have classrooms where a grandmom would be, maybe lying on the bed behind the child, behind the student, or a young cousin, a young sibling would be part of the program. So, I think it was a very, very, we had to increase capability for all stakeholders, including our teachers and students. So that was number one. Number two is capacity. Suddenly we realized that we had to upgrade our digital capacity, upgrade our entire bandwidth from our side, capacity for students to learn online. So some of the rural students had that challenge of incomplete, insufficient, or sometimes missing networks. So that, to whatever extent we could support our students, we did that. And we saw that we had to do a big digital upgrade ourselves as well. So that is capacity. And I think that will mean a lot to us, because in higher education institutions, we always talk about physical infrastructure, but I think digital infrastructure is going to be more and more important in the time to come. The third is connections. We take for granted the importance of connections in a physical setup, because it's sort of, it's there and we are part of it. But we realize that we need to invest a lot of effort and time to establish connections between students and teachers, between students themselves, between teachers, between the team members. So we spent a lot and lot and lot of time to create an ecosystem which would enable more connections between each other, because that was what people were really, students were also missing. All of us were missing these social connections. Like one of the things we still continue to do is, we in our university, the whole philosophy of meditation sadhana is very high. So we still do morning sadhana together, afternoon meditation. Right now it's going on 12:30 to 1. So the whole all teachers, all members, all students do this together. So that I think enabled to create the strong connections. The fourth is really creating it as a culture. Um, you know, um, uh, Again, we found that some of our millennial teachers found it much easier to adapt. Some of our senior professors found it less easy to adapt, but through a lot of enhanced and sort of hyper communication, if you will, I think we were able to create it as a culture. And so much so that all our practical oriented programs, whether it is lab oriented programs in agriculture, or studio oriented in architecture, or clinic oriented in osteopathy in our university, or even all the lab oriented engineering stroke science programs, we were able to find minimum disruption. If there is an opportunity, I would like to share how our students use their own, our teachers use their own family members as models, especially for a clinic-based osteopathy program. So creating is as a culture, embracing it so that we could find creative ways to sort of, make the learning complete. And I would like to talk, the last is the context. If you look at a lot of the data that is going around, in fact, I think online learning is a less carbon impact on the environment. It is better in that sense. And I think that might continue to be an important thread for us in the years to come. So we are very cognizant of this context, cognizant of how to involve our community and stakeholders. So last year, I'm very proud of our entrepreneurship and incubation center, because a lot of people were losing jobs. So we created ideathons and invited young students as well as those who had lost jobs to present ideas, which we are now on a selected basis sponsoring and supporting. So a lot of these kind of things, or being part of the overall, our parent is the Art of Living Foundation. About 7 crore people last year were given free support, especially the migrant laborers, etc. So we were a big part of that, and creating that as a ecosystem for our students. I think helping them build that character even during this time. So I like Dr. Seth's phrase of knocking out the lockdown. And I think all of us in our own unique ways did that. So I will pause here with these 5 C's.
Right, right. Interesting. You talked about 5 C's in the earlier session also. We had a perspective on 5 E's, and it was transformed into 7 C's. And we ended the session with 5 I's. It ended with innovation. Thank you so much, Rajita ji. Let's have a perspective from Dr. V.K. Rattan, Vice Chancellor, GN University. Dr. Rattan, your thought on unlocking the true potential and purpose of virtual learning environment, especially during the lockdown, because there should not be any lockdown on learning. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the as of sorry, as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has made all the educational institutions across the world adopt teaching online. So our university has also made the same changes as discussed. We have also tried to change to this type of online learning. But since it is continuing for more than a year now, and this has the courses are taught, conducted online, examinations are conducted online, assignments are submitted through mails and are online. Various pedagogical methodologies have shown efficacy during these difficult times in the enhancement of education happens due to active learning, flipped classroom with student, focused learning with hands-on project-based learning with virtual internship. Higher education institutes have developed new learning formats by empowering teachers to use the technology with blended learning. Now the after this we have faced, we are making all the things online. The students are joining online, and our classes, there was not a effect of this COVID-19. We have conducted the examinations, and the students, about the student, for an ardent and zealous learner, such and college times will never snatch away their enthusiasm or learning anyway new. It is a new experience for the students, for the faculty also. Now in the future also, the as the national education policy has come, so the blended learning is the future phase of learning. That is what we think across all higher education institutions, particularly in professional courses. Blended learning prepares the students to be disciplined with time management and learning skills, in addition to the learning the uses of technology. Of course, we have faced the problems to conduct the practicals during the pandemic, but the situation, and we have managed the all these practicals were conducted through online also. There was a demo of the practical. We engaged the staff that he was telling the students how to conduct the practical like this. But now onwards, since the situation has improved, so we have started calling the students in a batches, so that they can perform at least the practicals. So ultimately, in the future also, we have to adapt to the uh, this technology, that we have to take online and offline mode, blended technology. Most of the younger generation, in the particularly the students who enter technical education domain in higher education institutions, are ready and equipped with the this new learning mode, that is learning mode. Instructors, teachers should develop a familiarity with online learning pedagogy and tools to instruct and evaluation. However, to deal with the internet connectivity, the problems are there, and device availability issues. Classes in many places are happening via sharing of videos by teachers over WhatsApp or YouTube also, because in the remote areas where the students are there, they are facing the problems. So teachers now, they are equipped with the YouTube also. They can run the YouTube for the lectures, some tips, or students can also discuss on the WhatsApp technology also. The students can watch the videos at their convenience. This is, however, comes with the difficulties in understanding the lesson and promoting the role learning. So there is still a long way to go before the complete digitization of the education sector, and the push given by the lockdown is steering us in the right direction. What educational institution can do to take blended learning work better is to have boot campus for families and students. Students can self-manage their time online, try not to be seated in one place all the time, and create a learning space for themselves. So our university has tried our best to ask the students to join online, to learn online, and whatever are their problems they are facing. So the institutes have come up with all these problems, and online learning is rapidly becoming one of the most cost effective ways to educate the world's rapidly expanding workforce. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rattan. I'll come back to you for the next set of questions, but very important point raised by you that the long way to go, start has been made, but we all hope that we'll achieve that goal of uh, complete digitalization of the educational workforce. But I'm sure blended learning will be there for a long time as well. Let's have a perspective from Dr. KP Isaac. Dr. Isaac, your thoughts on this? There should not be any lockdown on learning, and there has not been any lockdown on learning during the last 1.5 years. But how to unlock the true purpose and potential of virtual learning environment in present scenario?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Goswami, for inviting me for this summit, where we are discussing how we continue our learning process in the universities and educational institutions in spite of the lockdown. So this is uh, a topic which we have been discussing over the last 1.5 years. See, if I look at it, see, I was heading the Hindustan University as its vice chancellor, Hindustan University, Chennai, when this lockdown started in March 2020. I mean, the university could immediately switch over to the online mode. Now, then I moved to the present institution, XIME, where also we have been doing it online. But last year we could bring the students to the campus, being a small university, I mean, institution where the number of students and it's completely residential. So that we could do it to bring the students to the campus and have their at least about 4 months of their learning happening in the university campus. But whatever is said, one thing which there are a few things which I just wanted to point out here is that if you look at the scenario of the online education before the lockdown, it was very difficult to convince the academic leaders about the courses being offered under MOOC or where we have the SWAYAM platform. There was the acceptability of these courses was less. So, but the lockdown has made it these courses under the MOOC and the SWAYAM more acceptable to the academicians as well the students. So that is a paradigm shift which has happened in this. The second point which I just wanted to tell is that we have been conducting distance education programs. Now, online education now has come out as a critical component in the universities as a strategy for bringing more income to the universities, and the UGC has now permitted the category 1 and 2 universities to start online education. So now this online education is considered by the universities as a critical component in their strategic growth path. So this is the second thing which we have learned from this. So the proportion of the students taking online education is also increasing, which will increase the GER and the government's expectations to bring it to the level of a GER of 50 by 2035. But we have to understand certain things here. Whether, I mean, as I said, everybody has switched over to the online education. But are we doing it to the right and the honest way? Whether the outcome of that education is really happening or not? The first thing is that whether we require the faculty, do you think that the faculty requires less time or more time? To me, I will tell that the faculty requires more time to be spent on the online mode rather than on a face-to-face mode. The number of students whom we can handle in an online mode in an effective way, if you want to have a real learning outcome happening, the number has to be brought down. That means the faculty student ratio has to be brought down to very less. The classroom size, if you have a classroom size of 20 to 25 students, and the teacher can really do it very effectively. So that is the way we have got to change. We have got to go in to a great extent to digitalization, in the sense we have to bring in the tools which is coming as part of the video conferencing or the online education softwares which are available, the learning management system and things like that, where we have got to make use of the tools. Like, see, I mean, we talk about teamwork. This is something which we have got to teach the students and how they participate. So that collaborative tools, the one such collaborative tool which I have seen is Miro, MIRO. It's a very good tool which, if we make use of it, but the number of students which we can make it a time to use that participatory or the collaborative tool is less. So these are the challenges which we have got to face this to continue. But at the same time, when we talk about it, I would say I'm for a blended mode of, as Professor Rattan has said. So this is something which we have to do. But there are certain things which we have got to understand here is that there need to be more commitment and discipline by the students in attending these classes. This is something which we have got to make the students to learn it. Need for more discipline among the students, because there is a lower retention rate for this online mode. Acceptance of the degree and things like that in the online mode is something which probably will get changed over a period of time. See, I will talk about the conduct of the examination in the second round. But what I would like to tell you right at the moment is that we have to create a classroom in every house, every residence. You have got to create a classroom with digital. See, this is not the equipment or the gadget which you have to use for online education. We should have a classroom in every house where the student will be able to learn it properly with good video. I mean, with the good screen and good gadgets, good things, everything should be available. That means we have got to create an ecosystem in every house, which requires a lot of money and things like that. Today we face the problem of the bandwidth, which has got to be solved, because we have gone ahead with our constructing roads across the we started with the golden quadrilateral projects connecting the 4 metros. Right now the whole we have a good network of roads. Similarly, the information highway has got to be built, reaching every corner. We have the Prime Minister's Gram Sadak Yojana. So we should have a similar information highways reaching to every house in the villages, so that every house will have a classroom, in the sense which, or we will have to devise methods. And why we talk about this in the terms of blended mode is that without doing by hand, nothing will happen. It's not by learning by just seeing this. So we have got to make things to happen to make it a blended form of learning, which if time permits, we'll talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. KPI. Is a creating classroom in every house. Interesting perspective. Let's have a perspective from Dr. Anubha Singh, Vice Chancellor, Alliance University. Dr. Anubha, your thoughts on this particular question?
Thank you, Souvik ji, for first of all having me on this platform today and for this opportunity. Well, I would say that it's hard to believe that until a year and a half ago, the world was still normal. We were aware of the novel coronavirus, but it had not flipped our daily lives. The need for social distancing forced universities to put their entire programs online. But it has been hard to comprehend the speed with which the global pandemic overturned not only higher education, but also industry across the board. Even though the regular routine of classroom instruction was interrupted, with many normal activities being put on pause. At our university, Alliance University, the university achieved impressive accomplishments in a short span of time. The learning at the university has been going on uninterrupted, and our students continue to learn and flourish in both expected and unexpected ways. Since 2019, we have been discussing about the disruption of higher education, whether by technology or by demographic shifts. And for the past 20 years, we predicted that online education would supplant face-to-face courses. Now, this crisis, the pandemic acted as a catalyst that turned online education and remote work into a new normal rather than an exception. Face-to-face conferences have been converted to virtual formats. Huge swaths of the global workforce started working remotely. Many of the changes that experts predicted would happen over a period of next few years stunningly happened within just a few days. Now, we were confident that one way to weather the turbulence is to integrate blended delivery by forming partnerships that shares content, resources, technological knowledge, and using our faculty expertise that would improve student outcomes and help us stay ahead of disruptions in the field. As you know, faculty role is an important, or I would say most important factor in the design of online learning environment, that in that various roles can be supported. So at Alliance University, the faculty approach was a blend of didactic role in order to guide students' learning, as well as facilitative to be available to assist students in online learning. So, focusing on the pedagogical dimension, our instructional design model was using the ADDIE principle, ADDIE, analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. So, analyze the learning context, which was completely online, and the instructional goal there. Design a pedagogical approach, and to do that quickly, we use the project management plan to implement it. Develop instructional and delivery strategy. So there was an organization-wide strategy to do this. Implement, that means prepare the learning environment and engage students in that. And evaluate, of course, that means design and conduct feedback. That was a regular process. So what it means is that we created a strong governance structure for a quick turnaround on this. Everybody collectively supported. We formed an EdTech team that tracked the course development process at each school, which was offered by each of our academic units, arrange various online training programs with the help of our IT department on the usage of, for example, LMS platform for conducting online classes, assessment platform for conducting examination. The pedagogy group or the leadership team focused on instructional design. Various dean's offices at each school designated liaison on campus who functioned as captains or co-captains for the work to be done. So in short, I would say learning uninterrupted. Our students have been very appreciative of our efforts in ensuring their learning has not been disrupted, even though there was a lockdown. For many institutions across the country, including Alliance University, the benefit has been valuable and interesting even in the radically new format, new world and new format. Professors have learned so much and enjoyed the challenge of exploring new tools, brainstorming different ways of to have interesting discussion and present material.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Anubha Singh. I'll come back to you. We know you don't have much time, so maybe one more question to all of you, and maybe you can take a minute or so, and then we can wrap the session. Whatever discussions we had for last 40 minutes or so, if I may ask that we talked about how fast we upscaled to the new normal, how fast we have ensured that faculty, students, parents, this entire ecosystem gets used to the realities of new normal when it comes to virtual learning. But if I may so say that accessibility, and Mr. Isaac was also talking about the bandwidth problem. I know these are the things which has to be addressed by the government and the governance ecosystem. Uh, so do you think that if we have to move to complete digital infrastructure, academia and industry and government should come, because this is the time that all should come together to ensure that that proper infrastructure is in place if we want to make hybrid learning or virtual learning in coming months or years not only there, but it will be part and parcel of our life. So do you think the time has come? Because I do interact with a lot of educators, they still say that there's still a gap when it comes to even interaction between academia to academia. That's lacking. So let's have a perspective from Rajita ji. Rajita ji, your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely, Souvik. Unprecedented times will always call for unprecedented and disruptive partnerships and acts from us, and it is a holistic solution that we need to look for. We are all here on this panel. We are more or less in urban areas, and I think our students also come from areas which have this kind of connectivity. But there are many rural universities, agricultural universities in our country, where the majority of the population does come from very remote and rural areas. So if we as a country, one thing I want to say, Souvik ji, that on any of the international panels that we are, there is so much excitement about NEP in India. I don't think anything has created so much aspirational value or excitement or discussion in the field of education as NEP has done since it was tabled by the government in India, and we completed 1 year. So given the fact that India is already pushing the frontiers in terms of what we want to do in education, multidisciplinary, academic bank of credits, multiple entry exits. See, all of this also has many repercussions on the way we teach, on the way the students learn, on the way we plan capacity. I mean, if we were to allow students to come in and go out as they wish, how do we plan our physical capacity? How do we plan our financial budgeting? So all of this is really making education, I think we are at a watershed disruptive moment. And definitely, I think centrally and state governments and private sector, there are many things that we can do together. All of us have large physical infrastructures. So if those be translated into more need for digital infrastructures, then what do we do to leverage that physical infrastructure is also another big question. So I think a lot of brainstorming we can do. I want to request you, Souvik ji, to take that as a theme also sometime for discussion as a think tank, because if we were to definitely move into blended, we are already there, but if we are moving more towards online, then what do we do with what we have as a legacy? So those are points we have to definitely discuss, and I think even partnerships amongst us is necessary. Peer-to-peer partnerships within us as institutions, and discussions is necessary. So yes, short answer, yes, and I think more reflections as I shared.
True. And as Rajita, you have said about NEP, we had elaborate discussion on NEP yesterday also, and today in some of the sessions. We're also focusing on that. And yes, NEP is a game changer, but some of the speakers have also expressed their concern that it all depends on how it is being implemented. So maybe in some other platform, some other day, we can also discuss about that, because that's a challenge we all know in a country like India, that implementation of NEP, which everybody is thinking that it's a game-changing thing done by government to transform India's education sector. And that NEP also talks about digitalization of the learning, the digital infrastructure. That's also mentioned there. Professor Dr. Navin, Sheth, your take on that?
Previously, all it is a teacher centric, means there is a classroom teachers and it is there. And by this position, particularly in pandemic conditions, the infrastructure which is not there previously for online teaching learning, most of the institutes, they have developed that infrastructure, they have purchased the platforms, and teachers and students, they are aware of. And now teachers and students both are self learning, means previously one of the panelists already said that previously MOOC SWAYAM, they are neglected. Now teachers are also getting certificate from MOOC SWAYAM for their promotion and other thing, and even students are also completing, and UGC also provided facility for the up to 40% credit of such courses. So now it is a self-learning is already initiated. It means it is a blessing in a gus. Second thing, examination was also the problem during this pandemic time, and particularly for the last year students. For the remaining, it is okay for the by continuing and by the previous exam as per the UGC guideline. But we have to conduct the exam of the last year. As far as my university is concerned, 1.5 lakh students in a last year, and they are from 22 different states and 42 different countries. So it is a most challenging work, but my university is the first university in the state of Gujarat that this examination, online examination, is conducted with all proctoring and other thing. So that is also a major challenge, but now students are also familiar, no doubt, for that examination. So before examination, we have conducted the MOOC test. So students are familiar for that examination, and later on there is a final examination. So even there are 32 channels by All India Council of Technical Education for the teaching particularly, but they are also neglected. But now the students, teachers in most of the library of our different institutes, they have set the Ds and all such channels, their programs are displayed and students are taking advantage of that Swayam Prabha and other channels. And so very nicely, even a government is also have for the primary students and other thing. There is a channel in the regional language also, and students are using very nicely. So I think, okay, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Navin Seth. Let's have a perspective from Dr. Anubha Singh as well. Anubha Singh ji, your thoughts on this particular thing, that do you need that, as Rajita ji was also saying, that peer-to-peer collaboration, government academy collaboration, academy industry collaboration, this all now have to come into one gamut because we have to, if we want to make this a reality. So your thoughts on that quickly.
Yes, Souvik ji. As I would say that education has, without our consent, being fundamentally disrupted. Questions swarm about whether the abrupt shift to remote learning will have a long-lasting impact on higher education. Perhaps the better question is whether this crisis has created the need for disruption, one that will ultimately allow our education system to better meet the current and future need of our students, rather than continue to ramble down the road of obsolescence. So, as educators and administrators, we have been faced with many tough questions about the current crisis, what the current crisis means for education, for learning, for research, for universities, for students' careers. So, will what we teach and how we teach be fundamentally changed, or we are simply in the midst of a stopgap approach, which will disappear once we return to campus in I would say, after post-COVID? Are we strengthened to take on what is ahead or shattered from this trauma? The answer lies in how we as academics choose to respond, and whether we view this experience as a threat or as an opportunity. Uh, Schools or other educational institutions across the globe have witnessed a shift towards online teaching as countries around the world have been under lockdown. Digital education has picked up pace with platforms like Swayam and PME Vidya. The shift does not necessarily mean that the traditional ways of learning cannot exist in the presence of online. As you were right when you were saying that national education policy has formulated a long-term strategy for standardizing education through a mix of online, interactive, blended learning, and regular classroom methods. Our current crisis is a chance to explore possibilities, not to destroy the traditional or conventional teaching, but to evolve it, to seize the opportunity to reinvent the educational environments. Once change sure to come from this crisis is that we will need to rely on one another more to emerge, intact on the other side. Even with greatest technology prowess and dedication to remote learning success, there are losses. Teachers miss the casual drop-ins to office to talk more about a topic that was brought up in class, catching up with students in hallways. One can't see which students look. So all those psychological, social, and emotional elements of learning are hanging by a fragile thread. So what is a classroom for the 21st century? It cannot and must, a physical classroom is a space where teaching, learning happens. It cannot and must not be replaced. The corridors of academic institutions
nurture creativity, as my co-panelist rightly said here. It nurtures scholarly freedom, must be protected at all times. Colleagues and students provide the context that nurtures individual growth and creates a community which is indispensable. That's not to say that traditional offices and workplaces are the only mode of 21st century of classroom. We are preparing students all the way from primary school to postgraduate school to thrive in a world that is fundamentally different than one our education system
Right.
were originally based on. So the education industry, which was slow in terms of digital disruption, this crisis has accelerated the pace. Like
Right.
most everything else,
Right.
higher education is being tested. It's possible that once the danger is past, institutions will simply return to what we did before, but that seems unlikely. As educators, we have a choice in what lessons we learn from the current disruption. What you call it as vanquishing VUCA, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations, they call for a different responses from academic leaders. And now, when academic leaders are facing a range of daunting challenges, it's best that we collaborate with each other and come up with a long-term strategy, that too under the umbrella of national education policy, to make
Right.
sure that with immense agility we prepare our students, and learning continues to be
Thanks,
uninterrupted.
thanks, Dr. Anubha Singh. We don't have much time. We can talk about this for a long time. Maybe we can talk about this later also. But let's have a perspective from Dr. V.K. Rattan. Dr. Rattan, your thoughts on this?
You see, we have heard and lot of things about this has been already told by the other panelists. But I think the online learning actually, let us see what we are doing. We are shifting to online also, offline also. There are problems. That problems have been discussed. Many of students are coming from rural area in my university also. So one of the panelists, Professor Isaac, has told that this is not the solution, but what to do. Even the students, they were having the simple mobile where the internet facility, or they could not they were not even having the WhatsApp facility also. So we have encouraged them. Our university has helped them, give them some scholarship, and in the remote areas the internet problems are there. So to implement all these things, that is, we have to ultimately move to blended mode, that is online also and the offline also. So the classroom, we know, is not only the room, it is the room, the teacher, the student, and the love to study. So that makes a classroom, but we are moving into that thing. So the online learning kills two birds with one stone. Let us see, for students who are blessed and lucky enough to have awesome teachers, mentors, blended learning can ever render outstanding outcomes at a similar or even at a lower cost. And for the millions who lack access to good learning experience, online education can open doors that would otherwise remain shut for them. In my deepest comprehensions, I have experienced a room doesn't make a classroom, that I have already told. Student, teachers, and love of learning makes a superb classroom. So the problems which we are facing, all these things can be done if the education institutions, government, and the industry, who has to provide, and we have to go in line with each other. Plus we have to collaborate about the facilities available in one institute should also be used with the other institutes. But this pandemic has taught us that we have not stopped education at any level. We have tried our best to hold the examinations in time so that the student don't suffer. They should get Those who were in final year, they have given the degrees, they get the jobs. We have taken every care, but during that, whatever problems we have faced, those problems we have to think at a joint level. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you, Dr. V.K. Rattan. I'll request you to stay back for 5-10 minutes more. Let's have a perspective from Dr. K.P. Isaac. Dr. Isaac, your thoughts on this, that time has come more than ever that academia, industry, government should collaborate more and more to make this a reality for longer, long. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as I have already mentioned earlier, see, the learning outcomes should not be sacrificed, whether it's pandemic or non-pandemic. So we have got to evolve methods and strategies to achieve that. So for which we require support from government, we require the support from the industries. See, for example, this is a period where the students are not able to go to the industry to have an industrial training. That also is happening through an online mode. So how can we make this to happen is something which we, the academicians and the industries, to work together to make things happen so that the learning outcomes are not sacrificed. So this is the point which we have got to always think. I mean, these are things where it's very challenging. We have a lot of problems associated with it, but we have to strive hard to reach that level. I'll give you one example of this. Is something which I always think is that we still believe in rote learning. That is a major problem which academicians are not changing. The problem is that we still depend on the 3-hour examination and the same method of putting the questions. When you go to an online mode of assessment, you have to completely revamp the system. It can only happen through the work the students we make them to do. We have to assess that, and not by a test. Maybe the oral examination will have more value than a written examination in an online mode. Whatever you tell about the technology we employ, I have no faith in that. Like this proctored one, still it's not possible to have a proctored examination conducted for lakhs and lakhs of students. It's not possible. So we have got to change. So that is a change which the academicians will have to think first, which we will have to think and discuss it with the industries and the government all together to make changes happening in every sphere of our activity, so that ultimately the student should not suffer, the learning outcomes should remain. So this should be our strategy to achieve this will go on. See, but whatever we said, we have got to probably, the thing which is going to remain maybe today, tomorrow, is going to be the blended form of education, where we will have, I mean, some shift will happen from the current face to face to the, I mean, in between the online and the face to face, we will come with a blended one, which will stand or which will remain as an impact of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Isaac. Quite, I must say, quite pragmatic take of the realities, and I think the audience who are present here must have taken note of what you have said and what all of you have said. And I must thank Professor Dr. Navin Sheth, Rajita Kulkarni, Dr. K.P. Isaac, Dr. Anubha Singh, Dr. V.K. Rattan for joining us for this session on no lockdown on learning, unlocking the true purpose of virtual learning environment. And if I take a crux, at the end of the day, we have to accept the realities of the new world order. We have to change our mindset. We have seen in last 1.5 years that most of us have tried to change our mindset, be it teachers, be it educators, be it industry, be it government, be it students, be it parents. I think that is evident in last 1.5 years, how quickly things have changed and how quickly all of us try to change our mindset, because that mindset change is very important to imbibe new way of culture or new way of living life, and that has to be there. But end of the day, when we talk about education, we all know that Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, once famously said by Nelson Mandela. And so we should not compromise anything while it comes to education. So let us all come together to make that change happen, and we all will come out triumphant with the challenges of the realities of new world order. Thank you so much, Dr. Navin Sheth, Rajita Kulkarni, KP Isaac, Dr. VK Rattan, Dr. Anubha Singh for joining us for this session.